Today we are going to see why frontal lobe is so important in our Christian journey. Before we dive in this topic, shall we see what is brain? So the brain controls our thoughts, memories, our speech, movement of the arms and legs, and the function of many organs within our body, like regulating blood pressure and breathing, and it also helps in releasing hormones. Even it helps in processing our sensory information which receives from our five senses, such as sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing. The brain is composed of cerebrum, cerebellum, and brain stem. Cerebrum is divided into four lobes: the frontal, temporal, parietal, and occipital. So we are going to see deeply the frontal lobe. So we will see what are their functions. So the function of the frontal lobe controls the higher level thinking, and it is the function of reasoning, planning, language, long-term memory, impulse control, problem solving, emotions, judgment, and motor function, also social and sexual behavior. So overall, in our Christian life, the frontal lobe function is very important. It has a deep role in our life. So the reasoning is also a great part in our Christian life. We have to reason, we have to plan out, and what type of language we are using, and what type of emotions we are bearing, and whether our judgment is right or wrong, and how is our social status and our sexual behavior. And when you see all this frontal lobe function, when we are having healthy frontal lobe, that shows that our Christian journey is a very delightful. And we will see why and how our frontal lobe are affected. One, it might be due to our drug habits and using all narcotics and illegal drugs. So also cultural accepted drugs like alcohol and nicotine and caffeine. And also it might be due to our poor lifestyle. So when we are having poor nutrition in our body, such as fast food, refined products, and fruit juices with all sweetening like soft drinks and sweetened cereals and fried, grill, and processed food and other popular snacks like chips and French fries, and all these things weaken our frontal lobe. And also not breastfed. If the infant is not breastfed, they are depriving their development of brain. Even their IQ score seems to be less, and this overall affects the improvement of memory and cognition when the child grows up. And also it is also affected by refined foods. So refined foods are highly processed foods and that have been stripped of their original nutrients content and fiber. And we also know that refined products or food not only affect our brain but also it risks for obesity and heart diseases and type 2 diabetes. And also high fat foods which are derived from flesh meats and their products, they all affects our frontal lobe. And also food that are high in simple carbohydrates. So they are excessively found in processed food, refined sugars such as candy, table sugar, syrups, and soft drinks. Simple carbohydrates are easily and quickly utilized for energy by the body because of their simple chemical structure, and often they lead to fast rising of blood sugar and insulin from the pancreas, and it also have a negative health effects. And also it is affected by our electronic devices that we are exposed in our day-to-day life. And the person who are excessively exposed to screens, they are neurologically damaging the development of brain of a child in the same way that drug addiction can be. And it has also shown that excessive screen uses prevents the growing of frontal cortex and reduces the gray matter in the part of the brain. And whoever are addicted to the play of video games also brings a negative impact in the brain. Often in our scripture we find a reference to the forehead. So God put his seal or mark in our front forehead, or Lucifer puts his mark there. So it is a site of judgment, morality, and character in addition to the creativity and critical thinking. So forehead or frontal brain is very important in our Christian journey. Ellen White says, the people of God are sealed in their foreheads. It is not any seal or mark that can be seen, but a settling in the truth, both intellectually and spiritually, so they cannot be moved. Satan can find access to the soul through perverted appetite, passion, to debase and destroy it, benumb the moral sensibilities of inhabitants of the earth. Through intemperance, Satan works to destroy the mental and moral powers. Failure in self-control, the first sin. So overall, our frontal lobe is the battleground for good and evil. So it is I and you who is supporting, whether we should support our living God or whether we are to support Satan. So it is you and I who is going to decide it. And Satan knows he can only empower the people by depriving the frontal lobe through our lifestyles. So my final request is, how are we preserving our frontal lobe? So when we have a good functioning of frontal lobe, our mind, our senses will be very clear, and Satan cannot be numbed our decision. And let us guard our senses to keep our frontal lobe spiritually high.